I've been reading this book lately, as many people know, The Children's Machine by Seymour Papert. And one of the overriding themes in this book is the fact that in schools we tend to focus more on teaching than on learning, which has been kind of an incestuous problem with our school systems for a long, long time. We think about what a teacher can do rather than what a learner can do, or what we can do in the classroom to foster learning. We tend to think about what we do as teachers as things that we do for instruction. How do we improve instruction? Where he argues that we should be improving learning, which is kind of a reversal of this idea. And as I was reading this, I was thinking about one of the more powerful experiences I've ever had as a teacher was a few years ago. I decided to try something with a group of students at an ALC I was working in, where we started the course by exploring or asking the question, what are some powerful learning experiences that you have had? And in that school, this was a pressing issue because the student body was mostly comprised of students for which the regular school system did not work well for. So what we did was we had the students brainstorm times in their lives when they could have, or when they had really powerful learning experiences, and we made a list. And we made a list of qualities that were common in those experiences. And then we did a list of times that they were supposed to have had learning experiences that were not very good, and what were some qualities of those experiences that impeded the learning, why they were not powerful or not effective. And then from that we developed a contract between myself and the students as far as how we were to go forward. And what ended up coming out of that was a learning environment that was transformed. In large part, not because of something I had done, but because of something that I was forcing the students to think about. And it really didn't occur to me very much until later on, and especially some of the ideas around that have just been solidified for me in reading this book, why that worked. And so I would like us to do an experiment, not really an experiment, but more of a collective data collection effort to try and engage in our own metacognition as teachers. And now this is going to be interesting because whenever I've done this with groups before, when I do this with groups of students, I almost always get at least 75% of my responses are non-school related times or experiences with learning. With teachers, it's almost 95%. Say it's something to do with school. And the reason my hypothesis for this is the reason a lot of people become teachers has something to do with the fact that they were good at school themselves, or they like school because they were good. Now that might not be true, but I have very good reason to believe that might be a lot of the reason why a lot of people become school teachers. So if we are going to, as school teachers, try and improve learning in our classrooms, we need to think outside of our experience in the schools and think about experiences of our own learning outside of school. So what I would like everybody to do is to think about a time in your life, and you can reply to this if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator, if you're a student, if you're a parent, if you're a high school dropout, if you're a college student, anybody. I'm looking for stories of powerful learning experiences that are not school related. And so I'll be collecting these over the course of the next month or so. And then in the school where I work, and if you're a teacher in that school, if you don't do this on your own, we will do this in a workshop. We will take an examination of these events and do our own metacognitive reflection on this and look at what are some qualities of these powerful learning experiences that we can take and use in our own classroom, or use to make what we do with students more along the lines of developing an environment of learning rather than an environment for instruction and teaching. So I have listed in my blog post where I'm going to embed this video, and if you're watching this video on YouTube, there's going to be a link down below in the more section to that blog post. But there's a number of tools there for which I recommend or suggest that you might use to construct your response. And if you could please just leave your response as a comment on the blog, if that's a link to your story, or a link to or even if you just want to type your story as a comment, that's fine too. I want to hear stories about powerful learning experiences that you had that are outside of school. You know, an example might be when I was 4 years old, I touched the stove while my mother was cooking, and I learned it was hot. And so I learned very, very, very quickly not to touch the stove because the stove was hot, and it was a dangerous thing. It could be as simple as that, or it could be as complex or as dynamic as I had a year where I traveled abroad, and I learned so much because of the things that I saw and did and people I encountered. So please leave your short or interesting stories in a comment below. Thanks.